It's Ramsey Dewey over here in Shanghai, China. Welcome to another edition of Q&A with the Coach. It's after hours here at the gym, so you might hear some karaoke singing from downstairs in the background. Hopefully this video does not get demonetized because of that. We have a question from our friend Tyrone. He wants to know what I think about Christians practicing martial arts, because some Christians say it's not okay, that it's contradictory to Christian teaching to practice martial arts. He wants to know what I say. Reminds me a lot of those stories in the Bible where the Pharisees would come up to Jesus and say, "Some people say such and such a thing. What sayest thou, Jesus?" And then Jesus would rebuke them. I do not recall anywhere in recorded scripture where it says, "Thou shalt not practice karate. Thou shalt not wrestle. Thou shalt not box. Thou shalt not do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Thou shalt not practice MMA. Combat sports are an abomination unto me, saith the Lord." That's not part of my religion. It's not part of my scriptures. It's not part of the teachings of the prophets that I've listened to. But I understand some people believe this. Some people interpret scripture this way. I saw a hilarious video the other day. There was this guy who used to practice Wing Chun, and he became some sort of charismatic Christian preacher. And he said, in Wing Chun, they teach that if you do this with your hand, it will ward off any attack. But I realized that this only works if you were empowered by Satan. Which was amazing for so many reasons. I guess that could explain a lot of those goofy martial arts where they do goofy things, where they expect it to work. It's the power of Satan, my friends, all those no-touch Ki masters. It's the power of the devil manifesting itself clearly. Because it ain't good, guys, it ain't good. Real martial arts is the pursuit of the truth. Pure religion, as taught by Christ and his apostles, as the scripture says, pure religion and undefiled before God and the Father is this, to look after the widow and the fatherless in their affliction, and to keep oneself unspotted from the world. Pure religion is not to profess certain things. "Oh, I'm too holy to practice Taekwondo. I'm too holy to do this with my arm because the power of Satan is in that hand gesture." Oh, I absolutely believe Satan's real. I absolutely believe that. But contrary to the popular conception that he is this little red pointy-horned dude with a pitchfork who whispers in your ear, "Do this with your hand so that I may possess your arm and empower your Wing Chun energy and deflect blows," or whatever it is that a charismatic preacher was going on about. I don't believe that is how Satan works. How does God work, though? I'm probably boring some of you. Some of you are probably tuning out. Next. You got a million other things on YouTube to watch, right? I got a similar question along a similar vein from another guy. I don't remember his name, unfortunately, but he wanted to know how much God cares about success in combat sports, because he recalled some stories from the Old Testament, like when David beat Goliath. He said God seemed to care about that situation, and certain situations where the Israelites defeated the Philistines or other armies as recorded in Scripture and attributed their success to God. And he said, well, God seemed to care about that victory. Shouldn't he care about UFC fighters winning? I don't think he does. It's one thing when the ancient Israelites wrote in their scriptures and thanked God for their victories and attributed their success to God and prayed and thanked God for their blessings, man, that's just what prayer is for. To acknowledge God's hand in your life. That's what prayer is for, to give thanks. To acknowledge that you are not enough by yourself, that you can't make it on your own, that there is power outside of you. You can only do so much and no more in this universe. And because of that, we are in debt. And because of that, we should express gratitude for even the small little things that we have. I was talking to my children the other day about technology. They were asking me about what kind of technology existed when I was a kid. What kind of iPad did you have when you were a kid, Daddy? iPads didn't exist when I was a kid. Really? How about the internet? We didn't have the internet when I was a kid. That didn't exist when I was a kid. Really? Well, did you at least have video games? Really primitive ones. We had Pong, that was the first video game. Then we got video games like Donkey Kong and Pac-Man. And I showed them some of these and they were like, ugh, video games were terrible when you were a kid. It's not even photorealistic or 3D or anything like that. How did you stand it? The when I was a kid stories of my generation are way, way different from the when I was a kid stories of the previous generations, man. I had a Boy Scout leader when I was younger. This gentleman fought in both world wars. He was tough as nails, old as dirt, strong as an ox, and just a different type of human being. They don't build guys like that anymore because, I don't think they have circumstances like that anymore. At least not in my lifetime, not in my part of the planet. But getting back on track here, how much does God care about your success in mixed martial arts? I would always pray before my fights, not to win. I would pray to thank God. And I would pray to ask for safety for myself and for my opponents. And I would express something like this. I understand this is a combat sport. This is not out of hatred. I'm just doing a job. I ask to be able to walk away from this. I ask that my opponent will be able to walk away from this and fight again another day and keep doing this job. And that was my prayer before every single one of my fights, except my last one. And my last fight, I remember feeling like I wanted more. I wanted more. And I asked for more. And I remember specifically asking to win. And the results were catastrophic. And I feel like the Lord was teaching me a valuable lesson that day. When my opponent not only knocked me out, but broke my skull, blinded me in one eye, and ended my career. And it certainly didn't seem like a blessing back then, but in retrospect I can see it is because I learned to express gratitude regardless of the circumstances. And expressing gratitude gets you so much farther than asking for more, than asking for a win. So when you look at the story of David and Goliath, okay, you could look at this as David was empowered by God and killed Goliath, and so God helped David to win this fight. Or you can look at it from David's perspective. Because when he saw this opportunity to glorify God, when all hope was lost in the Israelite army, the first thing that he did was thank the Lord for the opportunity to show his brethren that the God of Israel would prevail. Not for his sake, but for the glory of God. That's a different thing. He expressed thanks. Think of the story of Elijah and the priests of Baal. This is a Bible story if you're not familiar with it. It goes something like this. Elijah was a prophet, and he had power from the Lord, and he performed many miracles, more miracles than any other Old Testament prophet. And the priests of Baal were the essentially de facto religious rulers under King Ahab and Queen Jezebel at the time, and they didn't like Elijah very much, and they worshipped Baal. They didn't worship the God of Israel, and they decided to have a contest to see whose God was real and whose God wasn't. And Elijah proposed this idea: all right, let us build altars, put wood under them, put a sacrifice upon the altar, and then call upon our respective deities, and whichever deity sends down fire to burn the sacrifice, that is the true God. What say you? And the priests of Baal were like, okay, well, they were put on the spot. Well, I guess we have to now. Clearly, they'd never seen any miracle like that performed by Baal. But they didn't want to lose face in front of everybody because Elijah just called them out. So they had this contest, and the priests put all these dry sticks over there and prepare an animal on the altar and start calling upon their God, upon Baal. Baal, send down fire. Nothing happens. This goes on for hours, and they start screaming at the sky, Baal, send down fire. We're making us look bad over here. And Elijah mocks them a little bit and says, hey guys, maybe he's sleeping. Shout a little bit louder. Maybe you can wake him up. And so they start jumping up and down and cutting themselves to show how pious they are to their deity. Send down fire, and nothing happens. And eventually their time is up, and they're like, okay, fine, whatever, you try. Big shot, see what you can do. And what does Elijah do? The first thing he does, he kneels down and he prays and he thanks God. He says this prayer, an expression of thanks. Not, please send down some fire so I don't look like a bozo in front of these guys. He thanks God for the opportunity. He expresses gratitude. And after this expression of gratitude, and only after this expression of gratitude, after Elijah had dumped water on the sticks, water upon the sacrifice, water upon the stones, to make it extra super hard to burn up, to show this was no earthly power, the Lord sent down fire from heaven, and it burned up the sacrifice, it burned up the sticks, it burned up the stones, and it burned up the water. And the priests of Baal were like, oh crap. It didn't end well for them. Elijah ended up killing them all. Took a knife and he gutted them all, killed every last one of them. About 50 guys. Prophets were hardcore back in the day, man. They weren't little namby-pamby, oh, you can't learn how to fight, man. That's. We got a beat going on back here. Oh no, satanic hand gestures. So, where was I going with that? Express gratitude. That's so much more important than winning, because I don't think God cares that you win. How much did God care about that little contest between Elijah and the priests of Baal? I don't think he did. How much did Elijah care about the blessings he had been given from the Lord? He had a hard life, man. Elijah, man, he was fleeing in the wilderness, spending many days without food or water. He was a wanted man. People were trying to kill him. He had a rough time of it. And after a very long time of this meager existence, the first thing he does is thanks the Lord for it. Thanks the Lord for his troubles. Thanks the Lord for his trials and his tribulations. Why? Because that is how strength is made. Not through getting what we want, not through a celebration of a win, but through understanding why we have hard times. And in spite of those hard times, finding a way to be grateful for it. There's a great deal you can learn from martial arts. Learn everything there is about martial arts. You can learn a little bit about everything, including religion. Man, there are so many ways that people try to conflate martial arts and religion. There are religious cults, there are martial arts cults. A cult is where an object or a person is venerated. That's the central object of the worship, right? So if you have a martial arts cult, there's some charismatic cult leader who's like, I've got magical chi powers, Hadouken! And everyone's like, oh yes, sensei, of course, sensei. Blast me with your invisible Hadouken force ball. Ah! That's a cult, and there are religious cults, but martial arts are not religions. They should not be religions. What are religions? Religions are systems of belief and expression of that belief, expression through faith, which is action. Elijah expressed his faith in many ways by persevering through hardship, by thanking the Lord in spite of his circumstances. He did not express his faith through experiencing miracles. He experienced miracles in spite of himself. He expressed his faith through killing the priests of Baal. Oh man, that's pretty hardcore. Imagine how sure you would have to be, how absolutely sure you would have to be to make that kind of move. Are you religious? Do you practice martial arts? Do you feel bad about it? I don't. Thanks for watching. Now get out there and train.